Hello, you're watching Cape Media News. I'm Robert Goydas, and today I am joined by Theodore Keon, the Director of Coastal Resources for the town of Chatham, to discuss the future of a historic radio antenna at the Marconi Maritime Center. What would you describe the general situation that the antenna is in right now?
And in further background, the Marconi site is a very interesting and important historical campus, if you will, in Chatham. Frankly, world renowned to some extent in its involvement during, early wireless transmission. There are a number of brick buildings that were part of the original facility when it was constructed. And there have been a number of different sort of antenna systems that were associated with this site. Many of those systems have come down over the years, but there are now three remaining steel, what they're called lattice towers, that were part of an antenna complex. Each of the towers are considered what's called contributing features to the overall site designation within the National Registry of Historic Places. So one of the towers directly adjacent to a public boat landing facility is very close to a coastal bank near the water. And that bank, has been eroding over years. It's not like it's going to cause erosion and undermining of the tower tomorrow by any stretch, but it's definitely getting too close for comfort, if you will. And we are concerned about, maintaining the tower for obvious reasons of, historic preservation. And frankly, we just wouldn't want a large structure like that to fall over. So we are looking at ways to preserve it. And that's the nature of the project. We want to, maintain this tower in as good a condition as possible. And we're looking at alternatives. And we think, we know which direction we're going to head. So that's where we are.
And when was it found that the antenna was in danger of collapsing?
Again, this is not something that we all of a sudden, discovered. We've been watching this. We've been concerned about, what should we do at this site? There were some thoughts initially to perhaps try to do erosion protection of the bank itself. And then the conversation on that front sort of then turned, well, there's a lot of issues associated with providing, hardening of a shoreline from a regulatory perspective. There's substantial cost associated with that. So we considered some other options, and we were fortunate. There is, in town, a gentleman who's very familiar with preserving structures of this in the sense of their structural stability and construction. And he's been involved with relocating towers of this nature. And his recommendation, and then I think this will be the final conclusion that we'll come to, that we can just simply pick it up and relocate it further from, the edge of the bank and preserve it in place, if you will. So while we have not done, the full analysis of that, we have requested, and it's been supported by our Community Preservation Committee, to request funding to look into this option and compare it to other alternatives, and ultimately have a conclusion as to the best way to preserve the tower.
All right. And finally, how would you describe the importance of this to the community of Cape Cod?
Well, the whole site, as I indicated, is important from its historical significance of wireless communication. We do have an active, open public museum that is managed by, a group of volunteers and folks associated with the Marconi site. And, the tower is just another one of the contributing factors that, people like to see it in context with the overall site. So I think, it's important to preserve this. We're kind of, I don't want to say required to preserve it. It doesn't, have that level of protection, if you will. But I think it's definitely something that we can and should preserve if all feasible, to do so.
Thank you very much. And once again, I'm Robert Goydas for Cape Media News.